everyone and welcome to my channel. Welcome back if you are a subscriber and welcome if you are new. Today we are going to be chatting a little bit about what sex is. If you are new to my channel, I dip in and out of doing some sex. I don't want to call it education because it sounds really serious and really formal, but just chatting about sex a little bit. Like, I feel like that's more my vibe, like just chatting about it rather than like teaching you something. But it's kind of teaching you something at the same time. It's like my opinions. Everything I say, I try to say that's like backed by science and stuff, but it's not like sciencey, like here's some science coming at you kind of thing. It's just like my kind of opinions are led by research and science anyway, so that's kind of where it comes from. But it's my opinions as well, and I thought today we could just chat a little bit about what sex is and what like the definition of sex is, because I think it's very damaging what we have in our heads as a society what sex is currently. I would say that my idea kind of changed of what sex is probably in the last few years, and I think that what it was before that was what society thinks sex is. And so first we'll talk a little bit about that. So what I think that society deems as sex is PIV sex, so that's penis in vagina, and there's so many issues with it that we need to talk about, but that's kind of what sex is defined as usually, and that's what we're going to talk about today. There's a reason why we shouldn't define it as that. So I think the first thing that we need to talk about is why it's damaging. There are two main issues. The first one, I'm going to say that is very obvious, is it's really damaging to people who aren't heterosexual or who are having sex with a penis and a vagina. It's anybody who isn't that kind of like couple, but when I say couple I mean like anything. But it's not great for people who aren't having sex, that aren't in that kind of sexual dynamic where there's a penis and a vagina. We need to move away from that because it's not fair to people who are in that kind of dynamic who have other things down there. I don't want to call them sexual organs because that sounds like super formal. What can I call it? Bits? Have different bits? Have different... I don't even know. It's damaging to people who don't have that down there. If we define sex as PIV, people who are having where there's two penises or two vulvas, they wouldn't actually be able to have sex if that's what we define sex as. So that's it's a big main point that we can't call sex PIV because it excludes the entirety of people who don't have a penis and vagina in sex. The reason I'm saying a penis and vagina is because I don't want to say heterosexual sex and group that in with people who just so happen to have a penis and a vagina, like somebody who is like trans, that they might be in what they class as like a lesbian couple, but there might be a penis and a vagina. So that's why I keep saying it like that. I don't just want to say heterosexual sex. So I just wanted to explain a little bit why I'm phrasing it like that. But that's kind of a huge, big kind of chunk as to why we shouldn't really call sex just PIV sex. Honestly, you guys are going to be sick of me saying that word by the time I'm finished this video. The second main big issue, and one that I think that isn't talked about a lot, obviously with the kind of movement with pride and things, that's becoming a bit more obvious that we need to stop calling sex for that reason. But there's also the heterosexual side of it as well, where it's really damaging to heterosexual relationships as well. And where that stems from is there is so much research showing that women in heterosexual relationships have a much lower sexual satisfaction than people who are in homosexual relationships or like being with somebody who isn't a cis man, essentially. The people who aren't with cis men have much higher sexual satisfaction than people who are with, like women who are with cis men. And when I say women in this capacity, it tends to be cis women, but in any other capacity almost, I always include anyone who defines themselves as a woman when I say women. But just in this capacity with research, it tends to be like cis women who have the sex of being a woman and identify as a woman. But that's where the research is at, so that's what I mean in this capacity. But the sexual satisfaction is down, essentially. It's not as good as everybody else in the world. So to get over that, one of the main things that we can do as a cis woman is not just go down to PIV, because that tends to be the main thing in research that is showing us that the sexual satisfaction is suffering, because the sexual script that society's kind of given us for heterosexual relationships for a man and a woman, cis men and women, is to have a bit of foreplay, then you go into PIV, the man finishes, and then that's it. And that sexual script isn't serving women. It's not doing anything good for it. It's not leading to satisfactory arousal, sex satisfaction, women being able to orgasm. It's not doing anything good for the world. So what needs to happen is we need to stop providing that sexual script of PIV is the way that we have sex, PIV is the way hetero people should have sex, that is the way to go. There are so many reasons why this has came about, and honestly, I would really, really recommend reading Mind the Gap by Dr. Karen Gurney. This is kind of where I really learned a lot. And there's also, oh, what's it called? Come As You Are by Emily Nagoski. I haven't read that, but I mean, it's quoted everywhere. If you're in the kind of sex curious, sex positive space, you've probably heard it's Come As You Are by Emily Nagoski. And kind of Mind the Gap talks a lot about the theories that are in there. So I would 100% recommend reading those books, because it kind of just expands further on what I'm saying. That's kind of where I've got the majority of my information. But we need to stop doing the scripts that are there. We need to because society is saying sex is PIV, sex is PIV, as cis women, we tend to be like, right, well, that's sex. And then if you don't feel good doing PIV, you're like, right, well, I'm not good at sex, I don't enjoy sex, when really we just need to stop doing PIV if that's something that isn't serving you. Because the point I was coming to before is the desire that basically everybody who thinks that they have a low sex drive in cis women, it's not actually about a low sex drive. There isn't such thing as a sex drive. It's more about you aren't serving your body in a way that's bringing you arousal. And for cis women, we tend to get aroused in a different way than society's telling us. We need to be aroused directly by something. We don't just spontaneously get aroused. And so with that, and then if society is being PIV, 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 and then you're not enjoying PIV, it's just going to make you feel rubbish about sex, not want to have it, and just, it's not good. And we need to stop as a society saying sex and meaning PIV, because even though it sounds like such a tiny little thing that doesn't really have much consequence, it really does, because it adds to this script. I know I've said it loads, but it adds to this script that that's how you have sex and that's how you have good sex, and it's not. The only person it's kind of serving are the people who enjoy that, which tend to be cis heterosexual men. And when you look again at the research that's showing that it's cis women who are with heterosexual men that have the lowest sexual satisfaction, that's all the reasons for it, that PIV is happening for them and it's not serving them. If you look at cis women who are with cis women, they aren't having PIV sex and their sexual satisfaction's a lot better. And the same with gay men, and there's a reason that their sexual satisfaction is better than cis women's, because they're not just forcing themselves to have PIV sex. And the more people say, oh, it's things in conversation where oh, we had sex last night, people just automatically think that's PIV. We need to get away from that, because there are so many different acts that can be included in that. If you're interested more about what should be included in that, do your research, because there are kind of lines for different people. So some people could include a heavy makeout session as sex, but that kind of, you don't even have to research it if you don't want to. It's really down to you. Sex is what you want it to be, but we need to make the word sex inclusive of that, and we need to promote that you should be defining sex as how you want it to be, whereas saying sex is PIV, it's just damaging to everyone. So that's kind of the main two reasons. There's probably reasons that I've forgotten, but when I think of why we need to stop calling sex, like PIV sex, they're the main two. And I don't want to come off as if like the heterosexual satisfaction is more important than the fact there's the LGBT community. It's not. They are both as equally as important as each other. It's just there was more to talk about with the heterosexual sex kind of thing. So yeah, end of the video conclusion. Please stop calling PIV sex, and please use that as a really inclusive word, and that can be anything that's sexual. And honestly, please, if you want to learn more about this, read Come As You Are and Mind the Gap, because they are just brilliant books. So if you enjoyed that, I'm sorry if it's really short, but I just wanted to talk about it, and I just wanted to talk to you guys about it. So yeah, if you did enjoy it, please make sure to leave the video a like. It really supports me and lets me know that you still want to see these kind of videos, because YouTube doesn't really like these types of videos. So leaving a like would just really support me and make me happy. And if you are new, please make sure to subscribe. The more engagement I get on these videos, the more I'll do. So yeah, just please engage if you enjoyed it. Again, thank you so much for watching, and I shall see you in the next video. Bye guys.